Hey everybody, Nevin Gusak, your host of the Populist Patriot. And another live stream for tonight in the war against both the totalitarian extremists on one hand and the Reaganites and devotees of economic social Darwinism of the so-called right. Just keeping it real. Let me get a drink of water because doing a lot of talking. So I found another little gem. Well, my brother-in-law, married to my stepsister, he posted this interesting meme on Facebook where it talks about today's society. Sure glad the hole isn't at our end. And I tried to post it as the beginning meme here. I'm going to kind of show it up here, I guess, on my phone. I don't know if it looks like it might be poorly reflected. Let me turn off the light and maybe... no, the lighting, it's not helping either, probably because of the camera light. Well, anyways, what's portrayed in this meme is a boat where on one end, the boat is sinking because there's a hole in the bottom of the back of the boat, the stern of the vessel. And two guys are trying to get rid of the water that's filling up the boat. And then you have two well-dressed men in purple shirts and white pants, and they're just kind of smiling and chilling, and they're just sitting by and not helping their fellow boaters in the back of the boat who are trying to get rid of the water. And the guys that are trying to get rid of the water are trying to save the whole boat, but the two guys in the front, they just don't care. And so this is a description of today's society. And the guys who are not doing any of the work are saying, sure glad the hole isn't at our end. And what does that show? That shows the short-sighted aspects of American society and Americans, what we've become, because we've become as a society so atomized, which really brought upon by the 1960s and 1970s, but especially the 1980s, the greed is good generation. And those people not doing any work describes our political and economic elites. You know, as long as they have the rest of the country pulling the weight and showing up to work and paying the taxes and everything else, they're just going to just continue fattening off the masses as the country is falling apart at the seams. They have their escape plans already. That's the bottom line with that. And I came across this very interesting passage. It's in a book, American Democratic Socialism, History, Politics, Religion, and Theory by Gary Dorian. And according to Michael Harrington, who was the founder of the Marxist Democratic Socialists of America, in 1984, Michael Harrington wrote, during the 1980s, the conditions of the 1980s, the real atomistic individualism, dog eat dog, trying to, get on whatever scraps were left of the American dream. Well, he reflected that the economic crises during the 1980s did not make the people any more compassionate. He describes the American public at the time as they are frightening, and most people concentrate on saving themselves. Thoughts of brothers or sisters who are moral kin, but not one's blood relatives, are a luxury many cannot afford. Because the thing is as wages were declining, as people were struggling to survive, women were brought into the workforce to sustain middle-class lifestyles. People had to worry about putting food on the... This was a time where people started to work multiple jobs. The single breadwinner concept was going down the toilet and being tossed overboard. And that meme that I described of the boat sinking on one half, where everyone's trying to throw off and drain the water, while the other people, the fat cats on the other side, were not doing anything because they're like, well, at least it is in our boat, so we don't care what happens to the rest of the country and the rest of the boat because it's not our problem. Chuck Harder, the late famed broadcaster, populist and civic nationalist broadcaster, Chuck Harder, whose show I've appeared on before he passed away, He had a term for it in his book, Will We Ever Learn, which I own a copy. It's available on Amazon.com. And he termed it the I've Got Mine Club. And that's what Reaganism, I mean, you could say in some ways the 1960s and 70s, the me decades, the decades where you had, the various liberation movements and whatnot. But much of that really started in the 1980s, where society really became atomized. It was the age of greed is good. I'm in it for myself. Even the movie The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, there was at one point which satirized and portrayed 1980s society, and it showed the shallow aspects of the new money-making Wall Street elites and the traders and hedge funders and all those other people. And it showed their attitudes, which is the sort of get rich quick schemes, not caring about how it affected other parts of society, where even the character played by Adam Sandler, I forget his name, where he was basically saying, hey, we live in a material world and I'm going to make some money, get rich quick schemes, trying to impress Drew Barrymore. Julia, as a matter of fact, was her name in the movie, the name of her character in the movie. So really and truly, Reaganism undermines what Michael Harrington is saying is essentially Reaganism is not nationalist. In fact, its very essence undermines national solidarity. It forces people to increasingly into unhealthy competition for what is artificially scarce resources, wages, dollars, houses, costs of good housing in good areas, and things of that nature, increasingly basic necessities of life. And that's what was going on. And again, if Reaganism didn't happen, again, the appeal of people like Michael Harrington, the DSA, that it was known at first as DSOC, the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, would go downhill. And, and there were increased appeals of communist movements at the time. What Road for the Anti-Reagan Fight Back, written in 1984. This was a party publication. A party official told Frontline, which is a news program at the time, that the CPUSA now has a membership of roughly 10,000 and is steadily growing. Well, Gus Hall mentioned in 1988 that the party membership was 20,000 and that it had at least about 1 million sympathizers. And that's 20,000 and 1 million sympathizers too many. And also Judith LeBlanc admitted in 1989 that the Communist Party USA also had a vast underground membership too that was not publicized. So you had in this What Road for the Anti-Reagan Fight Back, dated from 1984, particularly stressed was the number of youth who have joined the party and or the recently formed Young Communist League over the past period, the fact which would appear to be confirmed by the significant proportion of delegates to the convention who were under 35 years old. So, I mean, communism was also making an appeal. It wasn't growing by leaps and bounds, but the party was growing, and it had an underground network of which we still don't know how many underground agents or members that the party had in a variety of walks of life in the United States of America at this time, as well as continuing to this day. So, I mean, that's the situation with that. And that's why Reaganism, undermined national solidarity. And as I said before, in my war against Reaganism and my war against communism and other forms of extremism, Reaganism undermines national solidarity. It undermines us as a national community, as admitted by a prominent socialist at the time, one of the founders of the DSA, Michael Harrington, who admitted it right there. And the way to defeat socialism, the way to defeat neo-fascism, if you want to complain about third position neo-fascist ideology, I mean, the left is gaining more converts than third position and neo-fascism and National Socialism in the United States. But if you want to defeat these groups, you're going to have to really understand their arguments and take the credible aspects of their arguments, their credible critiques of the current American and political social order, and translate that into massive reformist policy packages that will get passed like that within a few years. And that's what's going to happen. And we have to be serious. Anybody who supports a strong national security state and a sense of a strong internal security in the United States needs to support revolutionary reformism, revolutionary by the standards of the neoliberal elite consensus. So I conclude my broadcast here, this live stream. We'll be doing more. Stay tuned.